The destiny of Ukrainian boys and girls abducted by Russia, unfortunately, is not an abstract issue. It is a deliberate action conducted as a regular Russian tactics of war. It is Ukraine's and wider common knowledge that since the beginning of the Russian full-scale aggression, thousands of Ukrainian children have been abducted and forcibly trafficked from their homes, separated from their families, or removed from the orphanages and foster care institutions in the temporarily occupied territories, and also transferred to Russia or Belarus. These children were subjected not only to a forcible transfer, but to a change of their names, their language, their identity, and even their citizenship. These elements alone have no other name but an instrument of war. Humanitarian evacuation, not even close. As a scale which is under aggression, Ukrainian nation has not only been documenting and speaking and being vocal about those crimes. Together with international partners and our allies and volunteers, we mobilize efforts to take every step we can to bring every innocent soul back to their families, back to their lands. But only with all of these efforts, it was only a small fraction of these children who were able to come back homes. Each child's return is a miracle of diplomacy, coordination, and extraordinary courage from their parents who traveled through multiple countries, through the war zones, just to reclaim their sons and daughters back. But for every child who makes it home, many more remain missing, hidden and trapped in systems that are designed to keep them away from Ukraine and from the truth of what happened to them. As a mother, I cannot accept that any government would treat children as a trophies of war or bargaining chip in a geopolitical negotiations. Children are not assets to be moved on geopolitical chessboard. They are human beings with names, souls, families, memories, and rights. Their right to family life, identity, culture, their own language and country is protected not only by Ukraine, but by every international conventions that the whole democratic world has ever managed to accomplish. Russia launched the war of its aggression not only 4 years ago, but 11 years ago. It occupied part of our territories and decided it could claim our children as its own. As early as 2015, Russia was already taking Ukrainian children from occupied Crimea by train to Moscow. This was called a rescue or evacuation operation. These children were taught that they are not Ukrainians. They don't belong to anything they related them in their previous lives. Based on the massive amount of evidence and the cases presented to the court, on the July 9, 2025, the European Court of Human Rights confirmed that between 2014 and 2022, Russia abducted Ukrainian children and transferred them into unrelated Russian families. The court also established that indoctrination of children is a state policy of Russian Federation aimed at destroying Ukrainian identity. As an ambassador, I may say it straightforwardly. The forced transfer and deportation, including abduction of our children from occupied territories, is a grave breach of international law and can constitute a war crime. Bringing Ukrainian children back shall not be subjected to discussion. It is a central element of any discussion about peace and future relations of Russia, be it US or any country around the globe. As of November 2025, until now, Justice Ministry has officially confirmed 9,221 record, which is officially verified data of kids who are still abducted and being placed at the territory of Russian Federation. Cases of deportation and forced transfer of Ukrainian children are now around 20,000 records only calculated by Ukraine. But even according to official data presented by Russian Federation, the numbers are way higher. We still do not know a full picture of the occupied territories. But we also know that the physical abduction is no longer the only tool of the Russian aggression. Russia is reprogramming our children in place, in occupied schools, children's camps, social institutions, and even families under occupation. About 1,600,000 Ukrainian children are currently under Russian control in the occupied territories. Russia does not give them a chance. There's no escape route. The kids are forced to obey the ideology. So at this point, we know that there are at least 210 sites which are known as the indoctrination places across the occupied territories. We mobilized the efforts under the leadership of President Zelensky, who united international players and domestic players on the umbrella of the initiative Bring Kids Back, which we're doing everything to locate our children back. We created national programs dedicated to this issue, and we are cooperating with international partners. But we cannot succeed alone. These children are scattered across the vast territory. We need to make our voices heard, and we're grateful to helping us. Based on the information provided above, it is our duty to reach out to respectful members of Senate with the next elements. It is our position that we require the unconditional return of all the children within the peace process. We also ask you to keep this issue on top of the international agenda to the extent it is possible. And we also think that the information you heard from the respective colleagues of yours, but also you will hear from the testimonies provided by Ukrainian side, leaves no doubt that Russia is a sponsor of terrorism, a sponsor of evil, and a sponsor of sin. Passing the respective legislative initiative by Senate will leave no room for Russia to bypass the obligation for the unconditional return of all Ukrainian children. Thank you for this attention.